All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2. Huh.
It black screens the sideways
Yeah, I have
one.
no idea what that's going to look like. We'll find out
Yeah, I
later.
guess we'll see. Maybe it'll be like a blooper or like an extended edition reel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or a cold open.
Hey, all you athletic bards and bardettes. Welcome back to iCast Fish's Mockery. I'm Austin.
I'm Matt.
Oh, and this is a special Olympics edition of iCast Fish's Mockery. The Olympics just started.
Yes, I did not catch it at all, but I did read that they played a lot of video game music in the opening.
Oh, I saw they did that during the like Parade of Nations part at the very least.
Yes.
Because I saw some of that.
I
heard as I was packing to come home.
I heard specifically that they played the Olympus Coliseum music from Kingdom Hearts, which is interesting.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Square Enix music.
Yes.
There was Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy that I heard.
Kingdom Hearts I heard, and then I read that they also played some Sonic music.
Yep.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which totally makes sense because like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games exists.
Oh yeah.
And so like why would they not?
Yeah. Do you remember when we played that as children? And I wasn't really sure how the controls worked, but accidentally got potentially the best score that you possibly could at the javelin throw.
I've never played that. So no.
You weren't.
I guess I wasn't there.
You weren't there?
No.
I mean, we didn't play it for very long.
Yeah.
But it was are you sure?
Yeah, I've never played it once. I don't even really know what it looks like. I mean, I kind of do, but yeah, I've never played any Mario and Sonic at the Olympics games.
Well, they have a Rio de Janeiro one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Do they have another one?
Yes. Yeah, there are 4 or 5 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are at least 2 winter ones.
Oh, okay.
Because there was
winter ones.
Yeah. So there's London, which is a summer one, right?
I think so.
And Rio, and now Tokyo, and Sochi, and then I think another winter one, which might not have the name in it, you know.
So they already released a Tokyo Olympics Mario Sonic?
Yeah.
I guess the Olympics were supposed to be last year.
Yes.
So I guess that makes sense.
And they released it last year. I think regardless.
Just
because it's the one with the fun little like 8-bit game modes in it.
Well, I'm not really familiar with it at all.
Okay, well, I'm a huge Mario and Sonic at the Olympics Games fan, and so of course I would know.
You've 100%ed all of them.
100%ed all of them.
Yep, I know. Anyway, yes, the Olympics are going on.
Has no actual bearing on our show, I believe.
Really not. It really does not have any bearing on our show. Because we're not here to talk about the real world. We're here to talk about worlds that are made up by you and us and the fine folks at Wizards of the Coast.
Right, and the International Olympic Committee.
Yes, the fiction, the fictional lands created by the International Olympics Committee. Hey, how do you get on that? Like, what is it seriously like an entirely separate independent entity, the Olympics? Like it's interesting to think about, right? It has to be based somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah. I can't remember.
I mean, is it based in like Greece?
You would think so, but it's probably France.
Yeah.
If I had to guess where.
Yeah, France makes sense. I mean, it's like, the United Nations meets in New York City, which is interesting to think about to me. I wonder who got to pick.
Where does the model UN meet?
In the high school gymnasium.
Okay, so if the model UN meets in the high school gymnasium,
Or auditorium, depending on the high school.
yeah. So I guess then for the Olympics, it's the same thing. They would just meet in New York City.
The Olympic Committee? Or
Yeah.
the Olympics just every year?
Every year, the Olympics is in New York City.
You know, it's interesting.
Every year.
It's almost like D&D in this way.
Okay.
You know how in D&D there are all these dungeons and places that are just abandoned?
Yeah.
Like nobody's
yeah.
in there. Yeah.
Oh my
'cause that
God.
happens with the Olympics.
Dude, heck yeah. I want to play an adventure in an abandoned Olympics village.
It's probably
Oh my God.
It's probably not something that people think about, but I actually think about it pretty often because I saw it in Beijing. Because when were the Beijing Olympics? They were like
2008.
2008. Yeah, that's okay. That's what I thought. I went to Beijing in 2011, and all of those buildings were still there. And I remember asking the tour guide, "What do they use those for?" And the answer I got was basically they don't use them for anything anymore.
Yep.
So, I don't know if they got rid of them yet or not, but
I don't think they're going to. I think it's too expensive to get rid of them, and they're going to let them rot.
Yeah, it's weird to think about, right? And something like that, I don't think has happened in the United States recently, in like recent history.
Right.
But there are things like that have happened in the United States. Like the World's Fairs that used to happen that just don't anymore. But the World's Fairs, we've had two in the United States, I think.
Yep.
And I don't remember one was in Chicago,
and one was in New York City, I believe.
Right. There were some like wasn't I'm maybe my facts are wrong, but isn't like Coney Island like just a permanent leftover from the World's Fair or something like that?
Huh. I don't know. It might be. That sounds right.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's something like that. There's something that in New York City that was built for the World's Fair and now it just exists there.
Yeah.
But at least people still like use it for something.
Right.
I don't know about Chicago though. I feel like all the World's Fair stuff in Chicago is gone now. But I don't know.
It burned down?
Right.
Maybe.
There was a fire.
Yeah.
I forgot about the fire.
I forget how the timeline all worked out.
Right. Because it was like a cow knocking over a lamp set fire to all of Chicago.
Yeah, probably. I just don't remember when that was in relation to the World's Fair.
Right. Well, no, I think the World's Fair was after that. But I don't know. I just think
I have no idea. So I'm gonna confidently disagree with you.
Okay.
I really think that the World's Fair was first.
Got it. Well, one of us is probably right.
Yeah. And if it's not one of us, it's the other.
Right. Exactly. Or maybe the other.
Yeah. Well, either one of us could be right, but one of us almost certainly is.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about the World's Fair, but I've watched a few documentaries about, not really about the World's Fair, but about amusement parks in general. It was like a whole mini series that I watched it was about Walt Disney, actually.
Yeah.
And apparently the World's Fair was very instrumental in inspiring him to make Disney World.
No doubt, yeah.
Or Disneyland, I guess, first. But it was interesting. It was a pretty neutral documentary because it didn't paint him as like a perfect, amazing guy, but it didn't paint him as like a sadistic, crazy jerk that some people try to say he was. They were just like, yeah, these are the things that he did really well, and these are the things that he really didn't do well. And these are the things that inspired him. It was very objective. I liked it a lot.
It's all you could ask for in a documentary, really.
Right, exactly. I mean, most of them are pretty heavily swayed one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But that is actually an interesting concept, though, for a D&D setting, don't you think?
Yeah, like a perfect city.
Right.
That's one example, or an abandoned, whatever, like abandoned, perfectly made. Really, kind of like what's that, BioShock or something?
Yeah, like a Rapture type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where somebody had this idea and this plan, and they started building something amazing, and then it all went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about D&D is that you can make it kind of wild and crazy, because it doesn't have to have been built by like a person.
Right.
Maybe it was a beholder.
Mm-hmm.
Like a beholder wanted to create like a perfect infrastructure for itself, or maybe even for others. Though,
I could see Illithids doing something like that.
oh yes, Illithids, yeah,
You know,
mind flayers.
right.
Um,
Sort of having a bunch of mind controlled slaves building a perfect thing for them to like just be able to chill out, but then
man,
that's going to go wrong.
that's such a good idea.
Right? Yeah.
That's such a good idea. Yeah. Um,
I think, well, so
mhm,
Illithids are an interesting one
mhm,
because they all exist as separate entities who all connect with a singular mind.
right,
They're not always like 100% connected to the mind, though.
right.
They like commune with it at certain times.
Mhm,
However, eventually, one of the ones from their colony or settlement or whatever it's called uh, replaces the main one.
right,
They eventually try to transcend and become, that same sort of thing. As a result, there's like a little bit of a weird tension there because like how do you overthrow something who can read your mind? Right? So
right,
they're extremely subtle in their subversion.
right.
Uh
They have to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also because if you commune like everything can see all of your thoughts and you can just be killed. Like it's instant. Um while they're communing, the I forget, the great brain or whatever it is.
I
I
wanted to
think
say
that's what
mother
they're called.
brain, but
No,
that's definitely
it's not the
not
mother
mother
brain.
brain. Yeah.
I think it's called the great brain. Can just kill you outright, instantly.
That'd
Well, I don't
be
know if it's the great brain that does it or if it's everybody's combined minds that do it. But either way, you get
right.
killed immediately.
Yeah, and the pseudo science, the fantasy science, I guess, behind it is actually like a separate. It's a separate rule set and a separate sort of magic system, you could say,
Hmm.
than like the weave and how
Right.
like actual magic works, because psionics in D&D is separate,
Hmm.
like explicitly separate. And that's how Illithids.
Psionics is magic that uses your brain juice instead of air magics.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
Right, right, because magic in D&D is somewhat similar. It's somewhat similar to the way they explain alchemy in Full Metal Alchemist, in that there is a power that exists everywhere all the time,
Yeah.
and you utilize that to your advantage, but it still does take something out of you to do it.
If you're looking for a real life parallel, you would look at quantum field theory
There you go.
or something along those lines. Or any kind of field theory is kind of the idea of how the weave works. Is like it's not exactly that there are particles everywhere that contain a certain amount of magic or whatever. It could be depending on your setting. You could be like, "Hey, this is how it's explained scientifically. Good luck doing anything with that." But here are the spells work. All right, the spells do work, so you can do that. I don't know what you're gonna like. Are you gonna build some kind of magical particle accelerator? I don't know how you'll do that. Good luck convincing me that you got it right. Uh,
Right. Um, but just to backtrack for a second,
mhm,
what you were saying about like an illithid coup d'état, that's such an interesting concept for a one-shot campaign or like a few sessions, like a short campaign.
mhm,
I don't know if you could make something long term with that concept. I mean, you could, but um, that sounds really fun.
mhm.
Like, all right, you're part of essentially not quite a hive mind, but like a connective conscience.
Yeah.
Um, and your goal is to overthrow the great connective power without it knowing. Keep in mind that it knows everything that you're thinking at certain times,
Mhm.
and it's like a spy movie because you know how like in spy movies where they do that thing where like the bad guy will be like, "Oh, I have your family and the orders of my henchmen are if they don't hear from me every hour on the hour is to kill them.
Mhm.
So if you kill me right now, your family is as good as dead."
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of like it's got that dynamic, but sort of reversed on you, where basically you have to check in with this entity, and if you don't, you're dead.
Right.
Because if you think about it, a power like that, like the great brain, if it can't establish a connection within a certain amount of time, it has to assume that that entity is either compromised
Mhm.
or has defected.
Right.
And either way, I mean, they got to go.
Exactly. Um, yeah. So here, I've actually got an interesting thing,
Hmm.
sort of relating to that. There's the new book,
Okay.
the Drakensheim one. You know the one I'm talking about?
Um,
I forget the whole name of it. Um, but you may have seen that it
the
exists.
it's a dragon related one, right?
No,
Or no?
no, the one that's related to it's a setting type of book. Um, uh, look, we'll figure out the title later. It doesn't matter right now. It's a fairly new one though. It's a
Hmm.
the not the dragon one, but the one right before it. I think.
Okay.
And it's all about it's about the setting, the realms of darkness or whatever. Look, anyway, there's just one good idea that I want to pull out of it.
Okay.
I mean, there's other good stuff in it,
Hmm.
but it's all about how to run sort of like different types of horror adventures.
Okay.
But this idea is useful for anything. There is the idea of the mists of whatever. I think it's Drakensheim, but and which sounds right, but I don't know. Um, the mists though will come in at random times, and they can do whatever to you. Some people can navigate the mists and like use them to teleport away basically. Other people though get changed by them and put in different places and things like that. What that lets you do is you can then run. I think of it like running an adventure with the same characters the whole time, but you can change their classes. You can
Oh,
change
okay.
uh their races, you could change all that stuff, but it still is the same people the whole time. As you go through a bunch of different shorter story arcs or things like that. And I think that's pretty cool. That's a cool idea. Um it definitely reminds me of I can't think of one in particular, but there were definitely some cartoons or well mostly cartoons that did stuff like that where like it would drop the characters into a new place that all have a different outfit that all
Yeah.
it'd be a different type of story in this new place like one place they'd be solving a murder mystery, one place they'd be doing some sort of action adventure stuff, that
Hmm.
sort of thing. That kind of that's that kind of vibe. I think that's a good thing to use in a campaign.
Yeah, being able to just kind of switch it up
Hmm.
um, at the drop of a hat, and having characters wrestling with, having different skills, and they're good at them, but they still, maybe they know they can do them as proficiently as they're capable of, but maybe they don't fully understand the utility of all of them.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe they don't even realize that they can do the things until they think to try,
Right. Yeah. Well,
and stuff
you
like
could
that.
role play it a bunch of different ways, because
Right.
it could just be like you have switched from a level 5 monk to a level 5 paladin, and that's
Mhm.
just what you are now, right? Like, and your character may or may not realize that something has changed. You could go either way with that. And I like that option of, like your character knows that something changed, but like, all right, I'll do this now. Or they try to get back to normal, or they don't know they changed, and then later they find out, or something like that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. It's a
Hmm.
cool concept. I'm realizing too that this conversation that we had about illithids and they actually did do that kind of stuff in uh, campaign 1 of Critical Role. That's actually like the first arc. Well, the first arc that I remember, at least, of the show, um, was they ran into, so in Illithid lore, or in D&D lore, illithids use psionics, but having arcane capabilities, like actual magic that uses the weave,
Hmm.
is considered taboo.
Mm.
Like if an illithid tries to cast spells and use magic, that they're like, no, you grody. We don't want that. We don't want that anywhere near us, because all their brains are connected. So they're like, you get away. They get ostracized, basically.
Yeah, they turn into an ostrich.
Right. And then um this illithid like basically made himself a metal helmet that blocked the psionics from going through,
Hmm.
so that he could stop himself from just being killed, and also um uh keep focused, I guess, on his arcane, sort of things. Um and he kind of like teamed up with the group to kill the great brain. Um and it was interesting because it was sort of like there was like a reveal that the great brain was it itself being manipulated and controlled by a beholder.
Ah.
So they thought they were going to be fighting a great brain, but then they ended up fighting a beholder instead. And then I think they dropped the tower on the brain or something like that. Anyway, um, eh, regardless of how it all played out, it was a really interesting dynamic, and made a lot of sense. But it used a lot of different enemies. I don't remember if it was the last episode or the episode before where we talked about how to choose which enemies to use.
Hmm.
But that's a great example, I think, of taking some things from the monster manual and putting them together when they wouldn't necessarily like it. Beholders and illithids aren't even related. They're not related at all.
Yeah, I mean, they're closely related, but not really related
Right. Like
necessarily.
yeah, they're not the same kind
They're
of
basically just the same thing.
entity. They don't even live in the same places
They pretty much live in the same place.
technically. Uh
No, so Illithids live in the Underdark, right?
yes.
And then Beholders just kind of like live in caves.
Yeah. So well, I guess a beholder could live in the Underdark, but they
Yeah.
generally try to live somewhere secluded where people don't bother them, especially other beholders.
Right.
Um yeah, beholders hate each other, I guess. is like a thing.
And themselves?
Yeah, actually, I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah, like their whole drive and motivation, like and you can, I mean, you can make this whatever you want in a game, you know. But the way that it's written in the lore is like beholders are they're like this weird combination of vain, but also sort of like almost self-deprecating in a way.
Hmm.
They think they're perfect beings, but also they constantly seek improvement.
Right.
Um, yeah, there's like some kind of like dichotomy of character with them. It's interesting. But they're cool. I like beholders. Maybe you'll fight one sometime.
I'm indifferent to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel that way about a lot of D&D enemies. That like what it comes down to is how you use them.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything like lore wise. I don't know if there's anything that special that I love about any certain ones. Um, but that's fine for what you use them for. I think if there was a certain specific lore thing that made one type of creature stand out as like, oh, this is the coolest enemy, just the setup would go wrong in any campaign. You'd never be able to get it to be quite as impactful as the story of the enemy itself. So I'm glad that they're kind of all a little bit more bland than that, almost. Like they set up usually
Yeah.
like a relationship between this creature and some other creature and some other, and that's about it. And that's all that we need to be able to, like, that's actually the best thing is just knowing how this thing fits in the world. That's
Mhm.
all we should, that's all we really need, you know?
Yeah, you're saying what omission of detail do you think is better? Like you're saying if they included certain details, you would think it would be not as interesting?
Yeah. I think if they, um, I think the more detail they do include, the less interesting it is,
Yeah,
actually, is what
I'd
I think
agree.
it is. Um,
Because when you connect with a story, you don't connect with the facts. You connect with the emotions.
mhm.
Usually, most people do. And you know, there are people who like things like the Silmarillion, which is like basically a fantasy, like factual detailing of lore, right?
Mhm.
Um, but uh, the vast majority of people like Lord of the Rings because it's about Frodo, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the vast majority or not, but I'll go with yes.
I would assume so.
Yeah, and I would say over the Silmarillion, yeah, I think most people would prefer Lord of the Rings.
Hmm. Right. So, yeah, I guess what you're saying then, in a way, too, is that when you make whatever creature you decide to use, um, it's good to give them some kind of clear, understandable motivation or characterization of some kind. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm,
Or are you okay with like just villain of the week? Like, you foiled my plans. I'm doing this because I'm evil.
oh, yeah, I'm okay with that. Creatures can be evil because they're evil.
Hmm.
I like they can just literally be compelled by a god who um wants destruction for the sake of destruction, which I think anybody reasonable would consider to be evil. And if you're the type of person who's like, I don't know if that's strictly evil,
Then you must be evil
yeah, then you must be evil or at least neutral.
or
And like it's
neutral.
okay for people to be neutral or evil, but like my character is going to kill them.
Right.
Now
The
my characters don't usually kill neutral people, but they will if they have to.
Mhm.
Actually, they'll kill anybody if they have to. It depends on what character.
Right, and it also depends on what they did to you.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
So, like, actually, that's a thing that I think I'm in a disagreement on with the general direction of D&D. Like the way that people are thinking of it. They're. I think most people agree that having certain monster types labeled as, or creature types labeled as evil or good is not not good. But I do not think that. I do not think that at all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, um, I think that I don't know.
Well,
I
because it
think
also it comes down to how you use them.
right.
Like,
But I think it also has to do with the threshold with which they are so, or even um. Well, for example, like a paladin, which is a class, or
mhm,
like an Asimar, which is a race.
mhm,
Both of them have like an option where it's like them but evil,
right,
right? Because they're good by basically by definition.
right,
They're good, but that concept doesn't exist the other way around. There aren't really any, I don't think, evil creatures that have an option to be like that but good.
well, there are dragons where there you have the chromatic and then the metallic ones.
Right, but
Because it was the evil dragons first, and then you
right.
got the metallic ones who are not evil. Um,
What I don't know the lore on dragons in D&D exactly. There's a
mhm,
lot of dragon lore that exists all over the place for everything.
yeah,
But in D&D, I don't know. Did they evolve from the evil dragons? Like, do you know?
the metallic ones.
Yes,
I don't know how they came about.
because the all dragons were born from Tiamat, I believe.
Yeah.
Right,
Maybe not all. At least the chromatic ones. I don't know. I really don't know.
or the
The
yeah,
leathery
yeah,
ones.
the
Hmm.
chromatic ones.
Well, I guess they're not. Their wings are leathery. I guess they're scaly. The
The,
scaly ones.
the scaly ones.
But I think the metal ones are scaly too. So it's like,
They're both, yeah. The metal ones are shiny, and the chromatic ones are matte.
right.
So the matte ones
The
are
matte ones.
are
Yeah.
evil, and the shiny ones are good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Glossy.
Glossy.
Glossy is the word
Yes,
we're looking for there.
right.
Um, yeah. Well, I think that there can be options for that though, right? Like, so I just think you have to not limit yourself too much. But for instance, like the idea of an evil creature only extends as far as the Dungeon Master's Guide and Monsters Manual. It doesn't exist in the world. I think is generally the case. Like um,
Hmm.
like if I said that goblins are evil, that's fine.
Hmm.
That works for the game design perspective and everything like that. It saves us a bunch of time and it gives us good ideas of how to use those in the game. If a character in the game says goblins are evil, then that's going to make your players go like, are they really though? And you might find out that maybe some are not, but at least having that as the default gives you a good idea of how to use them. And I think that that's a good thing in in the manuals is it's good to have a default alignment for for a lot of the creatures.
Yeah, okay. So, but you're okay with exceptions,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Yeah. I just think it's a good idea to have a default.
Default, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, like it says that vampires are lawful evil. But if there was a lawful neutral vampire, that still makes sense.
Ye- yeah. I think that they're evil though for a different reason. In the case of a vampire,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that it's actually the vampire curse that makes them evil,
Oh
in
yeah.
that they are compelled to basically create more vampires. I think that it would work like that. Like you could explain their evilness that way. Like they don't necessarily choose to be evil, and they might even be empathetic creatures to begin with, but at some point the compulsion, since they're basically immortal, the compulsion just grows and grows and grows until eventually they're just like every other vampire. If that makes sense.
Like in Twilight.
Does that does that happen in Twilight?
No, not the eventually the compulsion overwhelms them part, but the part where the vampires in Twilight are described as like um the Cullen family. They're basically like vampire vegans. They like drink the blood of like other animals, but not humans.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I think it. I don't remember exactly, but I think it doesn't
Like
like
in the movie The Little Vampire.
like it's okay. It sates them enough, but does it like give them less power or something? They're like always hungry still. I don't know. There's something like there's something about it where but it's all just like a choice for them,
Yeah.
you know. Like I don't know. Do you know anybody who's vegan? I don't think I do, but
I would have sworn that I do.
me too. But I thought that question myself, and I was like, I can't think of anybody that I know personally who is vegan.
Yeah.
Um, I know a few vegetarians, but I don't know any. I don't think I know anybody who's.
Oh, I had a
vegan.
teacher in high school who's vegan. We'll go with that.
Have you ever talked to them about it? Have you ever asked them why, or have they ever told you?
Oh,
why?
yeah, they did. They did say why.
They did say why. Yeah,
and they explained it as a moral choice. You know, that sort of thing.
right. Exactly. I have found out that there are actually a lot of reasons that people could choose to be vegan or even vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do it for climate reasons because processing meat is so detrimental to the environment, like land and just like the factories that they make and like
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
Like basically everything about meat production is like super super wasteful.
I think everything about food production in general is super wasteful, unfortunately.
That's true.
That's the place where we're at right now.
That's true, but I think
if
it's
you
like,
live in a country with a GDP over $5, probably a lot of the stuff that is coming to you has generated a lot of waste. Or
yeah.
sorry, not GDP. GDP per capita over $5. My bad.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure every country has a GDP over $5.
$5 US, not $5 Australian dollar dues or anything like that.
Australian dollar dues, yeah.
Yeah, no, but yeah, there's the food waste angle, there's the moral thing, there's health reasons that people say that they've gone vegan,
right. Yeah.
and so the health one's the worst reason, in my opinion, for anybody to go vegan, because I don't even know if we can give generalized health advice yet. Like
I agree.
Based on what I've done, like what I've seen in research about diet and exercise and things like that. I mean, that's something I've been interested in and been learning about for at least 15 years now. Since I was a kid, like way too young to be interested in this stuff.
Right.
That's just how it was for me. I am not convinced that you can give generalized advice to people. Like I don't think that there's a set thing that produces the same result in every human. And I think that if you found a perfect vegan diet and then tried it for somebody else, their results are going to be different.
Yeah.
And if you tried it for the same person at different points in their life, their results would be different.
Yeah.
And I think what you really have to do is figure out how to find a diet that works for you. That said, the other reasons, the climate thing, the just like not wanting to inflict harm on creatures thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you say creatures about real creatures, it implies that they were created by like another being, like a god.
Yeah.
So
Well,
in D&D, they are literally created by gods usually.
right.
Uh,
Or mad scientist types.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how beholders were. Like some wacky magic-y dude was like experimenting and was like, whoops.
Oops, all eyes.
Yeah. Oh, it always comes back to cereal, man. It always comes back to cereal.
Yeah. Speaking of which, our sponsor today, Magic Spoon, I wish, dude.
Didn't we talk about them like in like 2 episodes ago?
Yeah, I'll stop bringing it up.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, too pricey for cereal. Unless they sponsor us and they
in
give
which
it
case,
to us for free.
Guys, 25. Yeah, if we get it for free and you guys get it for 25% off, that's not too bad.
That's not too bad at all.
That's not too bad at all.
Yeah, I would do that. I'd take that sponsorship deal in a heartbeat. Anyway, yeah, it is interesting that creatures in D&D, yeah, they're all created. Like there are gods for humans and gods for dwarves and gods for elves, and they're all real.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Like indisputably real.
Right. Not all of them are alive.
Right. That's true.
But
which is also crazy.
Yeah. their existence is well documented, and you can investigate it for yourself. You can like go and find the gods. You're probably gonna get messed up if you do it, but you can do it.
Right. Right. And then the funny thing is that in the lore of D&D, I think, there's sort of a sense of like, yeah, but if the gods actually are real and care about the creatures that they made, then why don't the gods just how does it not end up just being the gods fight each other? And the answer is that it was like that. And then something happened where they all got separated, both from the material plane and kind of from each other, I think. Right. So there's like this whole thing where they really want to help, but sometimes they can't, which is cool.
Right. And they have done a lot of killing each other. Like
yes.
that is just part of the backstory and the, main in the Forgotten Realms.
Right. Which is interesting too.
Yeah. And sometimes they can come back from it, or whatever, but or sometimes like their death causes like their residual power to leak out. That sort of thing can happen.
Sometimes it creates a power vacuum and somebody steps in and takes over for their position.
Yeah, it ends up turning out. Yeah, it turns out that like being one of the gods is not really a thing that you're born as, but it's more of like a job title.
Yeah. Right.
You put in your application and then you're like, I guess I am one now.
And there's also this weird back and forth of it sort of is both that to be a god, you have to have a certain amount of power, but also being a god gives you a lot of power in some way.
Yeah. It's a lot like being a billionaire in the real world where like,
right.
You have to really do something to get there. But then once you're there, it just keeps building.
Right. And you almost can't stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally can't stop. There's nothing.
Right.
Yeah. At some point, you're just like, oh, well, okay.
There is a certain amount of money where even if you tried, you probably could not spend it all.
Yeah. Within your lifetime.
Within your lifetime, Yeah.
I mean, you could all at once if you wanted.
Right.
If you really tried, I'm sure. But because of tax stuff and all that, like it's just so inefficient that like, well, actually, maybe you couldn't. I don't know who, because like, all right, think about all of the money that some billionaire has, like super billionaire, 10
sure.
plus.
Right.
Do you have an account where you could put all that in one day? I don't. I don't have a bank account where I could put all that money in one day.
No, I mean,
I don't have one where, like, I don't have an account where the transaction limit would allow me to do anything close to that.
oh no,
Right?
not at all.
So what am I doing then for the next? Like I might be able to put in
a couple
like
million?
$10,000 a month or something,
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
or $10,000 a week or whatever. I forget what the limit is. 10,000. It might be 10,000 in a transaction. In which case, maybe I'll put in $10,000 a day. That's not.
That would take forever to put it all in there.
It would right, because that's only a couple million a year.
So you have to have multiple bank accounts.
Yes. And then like, yeah, there's not even a way to move that much, basically.
Right.
So oops.
So anyway, gods are like billionaires are like gods. Is that what we're talking about? Or are we saying gods are like billionaires?
I'm saying that gods are like billionaires.
That's
where like you reach a certain level and then all of a sudden you're like sucked out into space. Which is what's happening with billionaires.
Whoa.
Right?
Wow. So many billionaires are going to space now.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I have some homebrew if you'd like.
I'm ready for it.
All right. I'm gonna do both of these because they're just too good and they're short. They're small. They're little
ready.
ones. This first one is so cool. It's a spell.
All right.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. The next one is a spell. This one is a feat. It's called Gall.
Is it Gaul or Gall?
Gall.
Okay.
This is user Prosk_019. Prosk. So you are overflowing with misplaced self-assurance. And you gain the following benefits. Your charisma score increases by 1 to a maximum of 20. And
Nice.
you have advantage on all saving throws against being frightened and on charisma checks to interact with creatures that are at least 2 sizes larger than you.
I like that.
It's pretty great, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just love the idea of because now you know that's going to be a feat that you put on a gnome,
right?
So you're like 1.5 feet tall, and you're like walking up to 2 sizes larger.
So
I mean,
they're considered small. So
yeah,
a large creature.
Large creature, yeah,
yeah.
But that's like elephant sized,
right?
Elephants are large, yeah,
I believe so.
Because I think a loxodon is medium still.
Right.
So actual elephant is large, which means that most dinosaurs are large as well.
Yes.
So I would just love to see, is it animal handling is charisma, right? So I want a gnome ranger now.
It might be wisdom.
Oh, it is wisdom. No, yeah, you're right. It's wisdom.
Yeah.
That's boring. Well, okay. Now the other idea then would be like a gnome luchador.
There you go.
Yeah. And give them that and just watch them wrestle some giants. I love it.
Yeah, but it's like their alter ego and like they're timid when they're not in costume.
Right. And then they put on their mask.
Right. It takes like an action.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't do it in front of somebody.
Well, yeah, they have to run away.
Yeah.
They have to find a hiding spot.
And then they come back out and then everyone's like, wait, you're just, and they're like, no.
I am Capitan.
Look at me.
Wait, hold on. What would be a weird luchador name en español?
I thought you were going to go with Captain Crunch for a second there.
No, well, that's another cereal. Too much cereal. Man, I do know words in Spanish, but it's one of those things where I'm really just blanking.
Capitan Baño.
Just
give him toilet or bathroom.
Baño.
Yeah, just nice to make it easy.
Captain Toilet.
Captain Toilet. Captain Underpants already exists, so it's
Right,
like
yeah.
not even that far off.
It's not that far off. Yeah. I had somebody tell me that their son went to I forget which country. I think it wasn't Mexico, but we'll say it was Mexico because anyway, somewhere where they speak Spanish. And she was like, you don't speak Spanish because he was going for a long time, I guess, like
Mhm.
a couple months. Like, you don't speak Spanish, are you going to be okay? And he's like, I know the only thing I need to know. Un cerveza, por favor. One beer, please.
Mhm.
That's all you need to know if you go to Spain or a South American country where they speak Spanish. Which they don't in Brazil, by the way. If you go to Brazil, don't learn Spanish. You want to learn Portuguese. They
Right.
speak Portuguese in Brazil. I was disappointed when I first learned that
Why?
because I had already started learning Spanish.
Oh, okay.
And Brazil seems like a cool place to go, but they don't speak Spanish there.
They're almost like
They're similar languages.
yeah. There are enough similarities. You'd probably be able to understand somebody if you were fluent in Spanish.
Which I am not
No,
at all.
you're pretty close.
I probably could be
Yeah.
fluent in Spanish pretty quick.
Yeah.
I could probably do it in a month or two. I have the basics. I have the foundation. I don't know. I just never did it. I'll probably go to Mexico sometime. Just be there for a while. I'd probably pick it up
Mhm.
pretty quick.
What else you got in there?
That's not me bragging. That's probably true. Hey, user, I hope this works 5.
Cool.
Has the second level enchantment spell.
I like the story behind that username there.
Right. Their spell is called Marco Volo. It's an action to cast, only verbal components.
Mhm.
It's got a 60-foot range. That's important. So as part of the spell component, you yell out Marco, and all creatures that can hear you and understand you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, they yell Volo and reveal their location.
All right.
Yeah. When you cast it at third level or higher, you can use an additional language that you know for each level above second level.
I want to know what it sounds like when you use the multiple languages. Like, does the word come out in a bunch of languages at once?
Well, it is a magical spell, so I assume so.
Or do you just say Marco and people understand the different languages? I would think it's actually that, right? Like it only works on somebody who, because Marco's not really.
It's just like a name.
It's just a name, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a good balance.
Regardless,
yeah,
that's a really fun spell.
It is. It is. Well, it's just got so much utility,
right?
To reveal a creature that's hidden, because like it wouldn't work on like a, what are they called, like a phase spider that can turn invisible because they don't speak any languages. But like a spy who's like hiding around.
Yeah, like if you're not sure if there's somebody near you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so would this work on Shia LaBeouf? I assume so, right?
Yeah, he speaks common.
He speaks common. Nice.
And the only requirement is that they speak the same language as you. So
yeah. So yeah, I think if you were in the woods
and
you weren't sure if Shia LaBeouf was around, there you go. Just yell Marco.
Now they do have to fail a wisdom saving throw with your spell save DC first. I don't remember Shia LaBeouf's stats, but he might be good at wisdom saving throws. I don't know.
I think he was more of a dexterity based build.
Oh yeah,
and strength. So he probably would fail wisdom. We're all good.
I don't know, man. 5% chance that he beats it no matter what.
No, my wisdom saving throw is 23. I made that up. It's not that.
No, of course not. Plus, your spell save DC is the same.
Regardless. Or yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
yeah.
Spell save DC. Yep. It's not 23 though. I don't know what it is.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be.
That'd be way too high for 6th level. You guys are now.
I mean, it's not that high for 6th level. It's like medium for 6th level.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say.
I mean, I have that one move that does like, what was it, 100 d20 damage. So,
how did you do that? Did you just like
I just made a custom
spell,
custom attack? Yeah,
attack?
Yeah.
You did that in the like. Can you do that right on your character sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yep, right on D&D Beyond there.
Okay, because I know to make a custom spell you have to go to the spell builder, but you can do a custom attack right on the.
I think so. Yeah.
Character sheet. Interesting.
Well, I think Anna's mowing the lawn.
Sounds like it.
You know what that means.
That means we got to wrap this thing up.
We'll see you next time.
Next time it is.
Next time.
On the show.
Yes. Oh, that reminds me.